how you doing? And welcome to NLP Talks with Laura Evans, a podcast for people looking to unleash their potential in business and life. I'm Laura Evans, international trainer of NLP and host for this podcast. Join me in Series 2 for a magical insight into the training room, learn about NLP and hear firsthand from our students about how NLP is changing their lives. Stay tuned. Hey, how you doing? Thanks for listening. I'm Laura Evans and welcome to NLP Talks with Laura Evans. I'm the founder and lead trainer here at Unleash Your Potential and of course your host for this podcast. Now today we're going to be talking about limiting beliefs. Do you struggle with beliefs that have held you back? Want to understand how that you can change them? Well, that's what we're going to be covering today. So let's get started. So let's just stop for a moment. Do you have beliefs that you hold about yourself that stop you, hold you back, or limit you in any way? I bet the answer to that is yes, because as adults, we are littered with them. I used to have loads of them. I can talk firsthand. I used to have limiting beliefs that I wasn't good enough, that I couldn't do presentations. The list went on and on. A limiting belief is any belief that you hold that disempowers you or holds you back. Now, some really common examples, which I see a lot in the training room, are limiting beliefs like I'm not good enough, I don't deserve, I'm not worthy, I don't love myself, I fear failure, even I fear success, and everybody kind of goes, really? But you see, when you're successful, you lose things. Things change. Some of your friends might start to get jealous of the success that you have, and friends fall by the wayside. And so when you really understand what I fear success means, it's kind of logical, right? That some people would be concerned about that. There are so many limiting beliefs, and you might not call your limiting belief, I don't love myself, but that is a limiting belief I used to hold. Here in the UK, when we think about people loving themselves, it's kind of very ego driven. And, I think of a, 20-year-old bloke cruising down the motorway in his Porsche convertible car, looking at himself in the mirror, loving himself. That's what the kind of thing most of us think about. But that's not what we mean when we say, I don't love myself. When you say, I don't love myself, what that really means is I don't love myself enough to make myself a priority. I don't love myself enough to look after myself. I don't love myself to put myself first. I don't love myself enough to do the things that make me happy. I prioritize everyone else. And when I describe I don't love myself like that, I bet you're sat there listening to me now going, yeah, I can probably relate to that too. Because there are so many things that hold us back. And they play out in the way that you perform in every single area of your life. If I don't love myself enough to look after myself, then I might not go to the gym. I might not eat healthily. I might not actually build in rest days. I saw a quote on social media the other day, and again, I can't quote who it was, but it basically said, if you don't choose a rest day, your body will. And it's really true. So many of us, if you're a business owner like I am, or if you're a high-flying career professional, you'll know just how hard you work. But if you don't love yourself enough to take time out, then your body will take over. And it's no surprise that people get ill. Many of you will be aware of something called the mind-body connection. If you haven't heard of it, go read a book by Deepak Chopra called Quantum Healing. I was recommended that many years ago now, because I was like, no, my mind's my mind, my body's my body, and they're two separate things. And I only read about the first third of that book and shut it and went, I got it. They're connected. And so if you don't love yourself enough to look after yourself, then it will manifest in your body. Someone that I know very, very well at the moment is going through a relationship breakup. It's really sad. However, I've told her she needs to back off work. She needs, in my opinion, to take time. That stress, that pressure that she's been holding as she's separated from her husband, moved into a new house and all of that. If she doesn't take time to look after herself, that will manifest in her being really poorly. So these limiting beliefs have a lot to answer for, right? They stop people going for what they know they're capable of. There's a statistic when I used to be in HR that we used to talk about a lot, and I'm probably going to get the numbers wrong, but bear with me. But when we look at recruitment as a recruiter, or we look at it from an employee's point of view going for a promotion, when it comes to women particularly looking at jobs, unless they can do 95% of a job, they will not apply. Because inside of them is a belief that says, I'm not good enough. I bet you there's someone out there that's better than me. A man, on the other hand, and please don't think I'm sexist, I'm not, but this is the research. But men typically, if they see a job advert, if they can do about 70, 75, maybe even 80% of it, they'll apply for it because they know that they can do enough and learn the rest. And it isn't just about gender. There will be people in male and women that are the opposite of what I've just described. But they stop people. I bet if you just take a moment to think about some of the limiting beliefs that you hold, maybe that you believe you don't deserve it, or maybe you believe you're not worthy, or maybe you believe that you're not good enough. I bet you that has either stopped you going for jobs. If you're a business owner, it stopped you putting yourself out there. It stopped you chasing down that customer that you love to work with. I remember speaking to John, who you'll hear about later in the episodes. And I remember him saying after he completed the practitioner course, he went and did his biggest deal yet. It was a 6-figure deal in his business because all of a sudden he believed he was good enough to go after the premium customers. And then he did. And then his business flourished. It's interesting. There's a well-known quote by Henry Ford that says, if you think you can or you can't, you're right. Now, I might have got the word slightly wrong there, but essentially what you believe to be true acts out in your day-to-day life. We have in NLP something called the themes of NLP, and one of them is all about beliefs. And it's always one of those moments in the NLP practitioner training room where everybody looks at me like I've gone off. Because I'll sit there and I'll say to everybody, your beliefs are not true. Let me just repeat that because this will be the first time you've probably heard it. Your beliefs are not true. However, you act as if they are true, and therefore they are a self-fulfilling prophecy. What do I mean by that? Well, as Henry Ford said, if you believe you can, then that's going to spur you on. You increase the chances of you doing the thing you want to do, being the person you want to be, having the thing that you want to have. But if you believe you can't, you will act as if you can't, and therefore you increase the chances of you can't. You heard in episode 1, I was talking about my fear of presentations. If I go to do a public speaking opportunity or I'm stood in front of a training room, and in my head, that internal dialogue that we spoke about in episode 1 is firing off and it's going, I can't do presentations, I can't do presentations, I can't do presentations, then that will affect my performance. I will look for evidence in my environment to back up the thing I'm telling myself. I will look for the, grumpy faces in the audience, the people that don't want to be there. Doesn't happen very often to me these days, but there was a time when it was like that, particularly in HR. And I'll look for evidence to back up the limiting belief I'm telling myself. I'm no good at presentations. See, she's not listening. See, he's playing on his phone because they don't want to be here because I'm no good. And then what happens is you turn molehills into mountains because you then feed the limiting belief. You then start to provide evidence for yourself that reaffirms that your belief is true. Well, I'm here to tell you, folks, your beliefs are not true. And you act as if they are. That is hugely empowering, in my opinion, because what that means is that if you have a limiting belief of I can't do presentations, you have a limiting belief I'm a rubbish parent, if you have a limiting belief I'm a rubbish partner, then know what? It's not true. And if you start to flip that on its head and start to believe the opposite, you will see your performance, your results, your behaviors, and your outcomes in those contexts start to change. I often think that when I'm training in the NLP practitioner room, people expect me to walk out in a pink tutu and a magic wand, and that's never going to happen. However, that's what people think NLP is. They think I have this special power, and I absolutely don't. What I do have is the tools and the techniques to facilitate people like you to make the change for yourself. That's why NLP is so empowering. I can't wave a magic wand and make that belief go away for you. Listen, if I could, I would. But I can't do that. But what I can do is help you to see things differently, to know that other things are possible, to know that your, in this example, beliefs are not true. And you can act, behave, and be different. And that will impact your results. In the NLP practitioner course, we have a technique called a submodality belief change process. And that's a bit of a mouthful if you've never come across that before. But it enables people to change limiting beliefs as fast as 12 to 14 minutes. Seriously, 14 minutes is what we target our students on our course to do. To take a limiting belief that someone holds, have them turn it on their heads, and have them believe the complete opposite in just minutes. If you think about how long you have had some of your limiting beliefs, years, I would guess. I know I'd had mine for years. They were so ingrained in me. They were part of the fabric of who I was, the stories I told myself. And in 14 minutes, you can believe the opposite. That right there is empowering people to change their lives. And I love doing what I do. Now, I mentioned that this belief change process that we teach on the practitioner course is based on something called submodalities. Now, that'll be a word most of you haven't heard of. But submodalities essentially is the way that we encode and give meaning to what we call our internal representations. So let me just unpack that a little bit for you so you understand what I'm talking about. Now, we talked in episode 1 about the conscious and the unconscious mind. Now, in the unconscious mind, we have what we call internal representations. Now, for you and I, let's today just think about them as symbols or pictures. And they sit at the unconscious level, and they all have meaning attached to them. So if it's safe to do so, I'd like you to do a little exercise with me. Okay, now obviously if you're driving, operating machinery, or you're going to be at risk by closing your eyes, then please stop this episode and come back and finish it at a later time. But if you're in a place where you're perfectly safe and it's okay for you to take part and close your eyes and do this exercise, then I'd love you to join me. What I'd love you to do in a moment, not yet, is close your eyes and think about someone or something that you really, really like. Okay, that's what we're going to do. And then we're going to do something different. I'm going to get you to notice something about this exercise. I promise I'll reveal all after. So if it's safe to do so and you're ready to do this, this is what we're going to do. So I'm going to invite you now to close your eyes. And as you have your eyes closed, I'd like you to think of the something or someone that you really, really, really love or like. And as you do that now, notice the feelings that you're getting as you think about that thing or that person. And when you're ready, clear the screen and open your eyes. Cool. Now we're going to do the same again, but this time I want you to think about something or someone that you really, really dislike. So we're going to go for the opposite. Okay, I promise you won't be there for long. And this is what we're going to do. Okay, so if it's safe to do so and you're ready, I'd like you now to please close your eyes. And as you have your eyes closed, I'd like you to think of that something or that someone that you really, really, really dislike. And as you do that, notice what you feel. And then when you're ready, open your eyes. Now, why did I get you to do that? Well, firstly, it was very nice, I'm sure, thinking about the thing or the someone that you really like or love. But what I'm doing here is I'm getting you to think of two memories, two internal representations, two things in your unconscious mind from your memory bank, and notice that they both felt very different. This is the kind of stuff that we're dealing with when it comes to submodality. So we can take something that you really like and something that you really don't like, and we can change that. And in one of the forthcoming episodes, I'm going to take you through exactly how we do that with a technique called the like to dislike. So stay tuned for that future episode. Sticking with some modalities for now, though, here's another exercise that we're going to do. And again, only do this if it's safe to do so. In a moment, not yet, I'm going to ask you to take your favorite movie. Okay, your favorite movie. Now, for me, that might be Top Gun. It might be Dirty Dancing, Don't Put Baby in the Corner, and all those things. We all have favourite movies. The kind of movie that you've watched multiple times. That's the kind of movie I want you to think about. And I resist the temptation at this point to give you loads of lines out of movies, but I love movies. But think of one that for you really, really like, that you've watched a lot. That's going to be good for this exercise. Okay, in a moment, not yet, what I'm going to get you to do is shut your eyes and place the first frame of that movie on the screen, maybe a section of that movie that you absolutely love. And then what I'm going to do is going to get you to play it in your mind's eye and watch it as if you were watching it on a movie screen. And then I'm going to play around with it, but I promise I'll put it back after. So if you're ready, let's do it. So I'd like to invite you now to close your eyes. And I'd like you to put the first frame of the movie on the screen in front of you and just let it run like normal. Watch the scene as if it was a movie and just let it run. Now I want you to make it black and white. So make it black and white. Now make it so that the screen's really small, maybe the size of a stamp. Now make it so that that movie screen is further away from you. Just push it away a little bit. Now make it so there's no sound. So turn down the sound until there's no sound. Just let that movie run. And now I want you to turn the sound back up. Turn it back up to the volume that it was before. And then just bring that screen back towards you so it's that little bit closer where it was when we started. And now I want you to bring back any colour that was in the movie. And just double check that everything is back as it was when we started. Make any final adjustments you need to make until you're happy that the movie is back where it was when we started. And when you've done that and you're happy, then you can clear the screen and open your eyes. Now, this is a little exercise we do in the training room when I'm teaching submodalities. And I'm going to hazard a guess because I've trained hundreds and hundreds of people in this now, and the answer is always the same. But when I'd made it black and white, pushed it away, made it really small, turned the sound off, I'm betting that you wouldn't pay good money to go to the cinema to watch it, right? Because I know I wouldn't. And this is what we're doing with submodalities. What we're doing is changing the coding and the meaning that goes along with it. We didn't change the movie, the content, as we would call it in NLP. It's the same movie. I didn't change the movie, but I changed the coding. I changed the way you felt about it. Now, this is a really interesting strategy. It isn't an NLP technique in its own right. I'm just using it to demonstrate submodalities. But if you start to think about how you could change the coding and the meaning of your limiting beliefs, you could change that and believe something completely different, just like you did just now with your favorite movie. And that, to me, is hugely empowering when you start to think about the change that you can make. We also have a technique called, what I've called it, the conscious mind belief change process. It's a little technique that I've put together. I can't claim that it's mine because it's a combination of different things that people have put together that I've noticed and gone, oh, that would work well and that would go well. But I've kind of put it together and I've kind of rough and tumble called it kind of conscious mind belief change process. And if you want to get the script for this, it's not a script, but a process, probably a better word, then if you go to nlptalks.com and find this episode on the website, so you're looking for series 2, episode 2, you'll be able to print out the process which I'm about to talk you through. Now, this doesn't have the same success the actual belief change process has. Like if you were with me in the training room and I was teaching you properly to change beliefs in 14 minutes, then you would do it long term, effectively and fast. And I can't do that over a podcast. But what I can do is teach you something that I use with some of my clients that I think is really helpful. So this is what we do. Now, if you haven't got a pen or a piece of paper handy, now might be a good time to do that. But rest assured, as I said, you can go to nlptalks.com and you can get this process sheet and you can then use it for yourself and maybe with some friends and family. Step number one. The first thing that you need to do is get a plain sheet of paper with nothing written on it. And you need to, number one, write out your limiting belief. So if you believe I'm not good enough, that's what you're going to write out. If you believe I'm a rubbish parent, you're going to write that out. If you believe that you can't go for the promotion, you're going to write that out. Now, for the purpose of today, I'm going to use the example of I'm not good enough because they're so common, and I'm going to walk you through this process. So you would take a sheet of paper, you would write on it, I'm not good enough. Okay. Step number 2 is screwing it up and getting rid of it. Yes, you heard me right. We are going to get rid of it. Now, here in Wales, where I live in the UK, there is a lovely hotel called Miskin Manor, not far from where I live, and they have a beautiful roaring open fire in this manor. And I remember coaching a lady once, and I said to her, screw it up and go and put it on the fire. She looked at me and she went, shall I really? I was like, yes, do it. Go on, do it. Go. And she walked across the lounge and she threw this piece of paper into the flames. And I don't have an unhealthy attraction to fire, let me tell you, but there is something quite special about watching your limiting belief go up in smoke and flames. And she stood there and watched it disappear, and the grin on her face was just amazing. She came back over. Now, I do appreciate that wherever you work or live, there may not be open fires. And if they're not, don't worry, a nice little cross shadow will do the job. It needs to be a non-retrievable way. So don't just chuck it in the waste paper bin next to you, because metaphorically, you could go grab that out, right? So we want to get rid of it. So a cross shredder is very good too. Step number 3 is that what you then need to do is get a fresh sheet of paper and write out the absolute opposite of what you wrote in step number 1. So if step number 1, you wrote, I'm not good enough, then in step number 3, you're going to write out, I am absolutely good enough. I like to what I call juice it up a little bit. So absolutely, totally, those words really help this process. Rather than going, I'm not good enough, I am good enough. To me, it's a bit flat. So absolutely good enough, for example. And I'd have someone write that out on a sheet of paper. Step number 4, I then have them consider the possibility that that might be true. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that someone will just go from I think I'm not good enough to I'm good enough. It doesn't work like that. This stuff is at the unconscious level. But what I do want them to do is start to try on that new empowering belief and imagine what it would be like. So I'll say to my coaching clients, what would you say to yourself if that were true? So I'm absolutely good enough. If that were true, what would you say to yourself? How would you talk to yourself? What tone of voice would you hear in your head? Now, they always look at me and kind of go, and you can see them looking and they're pondering. And then all of a sudden they look at me straight in the eye and they go, but Laura, it's not true. And then I go back and say, but what if it was? The word but is what we call a negation. It deletes everything that comes before it. And so deliberately I'll use it to metaphorically delete what they've just said and get them to try it on again. And I'll use lots of coaching questions and I'll say, what would you look like if that were true? What would you sound like if that were true? What would you be doing if that were true? And I just get them to keep trying it on. And I've been asked by many students over the years now, Laura, how long should this section last for? And I can't tell you. What I will tell you is stop before you get a black eye. That's my advice. But no, seriously, you'll know when you've done it for long enough and they've tried it on and tried it on and tried it on. Now, I remember being told as a kid when I went food shopping, you never buy a dented can. Anybody else get told that? I know I did. And so now, even as an adult, I go into the supermarket and if I go to pick up a can of beans, if it's dented, I won't pick it up and I'll rummage through the stack to find one that's not dented. And what that trying on process does is metaphorically, it's like putting dents in that can of baked beans. Like it's not enough to blow the can up, metaphorically, of course. But what it is enough to start to misshape it, to change its meaning, to change its coding, to start to shift it a little bit. And then step number 5, the final step, is I get them to take that piece of paper with a new empowering belief on, and I get them to take it home with them, and I get them to pop it up on somewhere prominent in their house. So if they're a gent and they shave every day, wherever they shave, ladies, if they put the makeup on or they straighten their hair, put it up there, somewhere prominent so you see it every day. And I ask my coaching clients to read that every single day and try it on every single day. Now, we'll talk about changing habits in a later episode. In fact, I think it's the next episode, episode 3, with swoosh patterns. And we can change habits really quickly with those. This is not going to be like that because it's not an unconscious process. But what I can tell you is if we take the knowledge of 21 days to change a habit, I reckon if someone did this consistently every single day for a month, they'd start to change the way they felt. And that's got to be a good thing, right? What I'd like to do now is I can't do a proper belief change with you on a podcast episode. I just can't do it. But what I would like to do is introduce you to one of our delegates called Lisa. Now, Lisa had a limiting belief of I'm not good enough. And when she was in the training room with me, she arrived and she said to me, look, I'm a bit nervous. I keep myself to myself. She said, there's lots of limiting beliefs I've got, most of which I've never said out loud, and she really wanted to play her cards close to her chest. So what I'd like to do is share with you some of the recordings that the podcast team got when they came into the training room. So let's pick up with Lisa and let's go and have a listen to what went on in the training room.
When I first came in, I was kind of sat in the corner of the classroom, keep myself to myself, my head down. And I do have my limiting beliefs, but I don't like to share them with everybody. And then Laura said, come on, I want to sit at the front. I was like, oh my God. So I thought Laura had her work cut out, really.
When you think of I'm not good enough, do you have a picture?
Yes.
Black and white or colour?
Black and white.
Good, near or far?
Near.
Bright or dim?
Dim.
Good. And what's the location of the feeling?
In my stomach.
And what's the size?
Medium.
Shape?
Round.
Any intensity?
Strong.
Good. Clear the screen and open the eyes.
All I could hear was Laura at the time, and I've taken my limiting belief, and it was quite a visual thing for me. It was quite a solemn thing, and I didn't really want to touch on the subject. Do you know, I can't really get my head around it right now because I'm a bit of a skeptic. I don't believe change works that quickly. I think it takes hard work, a lot of effort to change a belief and an attitude.
So Lisa, I'm now after a belief for you that is no longer true. Usually, as you know, we use an age. Is there an age that we can use?
13.
13. And that's a year that has no real kinesthetics
No.
one way or the other?
No.
Okay, so I am 13. Okay, so same process. Ready?
Okay.
Shut your eyes. When you think of I'm not good enough, do you have a picture?
Yes.
Good. And notice that there's no intensity. And notice there's a little pressure. And notice that there's no weight. And when I click my fingers, you're going to seal that picture in. And clear the screen and open the eyes. What I would like now is your new empowering belief, which is the opposite of the limiting belief that you used to have.
Okay.
So we used to have a belief that said, I'm not good enough. What would be the new empowering belief that's a complete opposite?
I'm totally good enough.
Yeah, okay, cool.
I'm confidently good enough.
And you can feel that, right? As soon as she said, I'm totally good enough. Like, there's a real confidence to that. So I'm like, good. When you think of I am totally good enough, do you have a picture?
Yeah.
Good. Make it colour.
Okay.
Make it so there's no vibration. Make it so there's a little bit of warmth. And make it so that there is no weight. And when I click my fingers, you're going to seal that picture in.
Mm-hmm. Literally, as soon as I opened my eyes, I was buzzing. My old belief, I'd forgotten about my old belief, to be honest. I'm bouncy, I'm confident, I'm still buzzing.
So can I ask you, do you believe you're totally good enough?
Oh, yeah. I can be good enough. Yeah, totally.
I love that. Yeah, like, why would I not be? I love that. That's just like, yeah. Totally.
Yeah. It's my shoes. My shoes are my thing.
Right.
My shoes give me confidence, and I just see myself in my red shoes, and I'm like, yes, I can do this.
High five. You're welcome. So round of applause for Lisa.
Laura's just taken my limiting belief that I wasn't good enough. I wasn't in that place for very long, and she took it, and now I'm still buzzing, actually. It literally took Laura, 5 minutes? She was really quick and very thorough. Oh, she's fab, isn't she?
That transformation was just phenomenal, wasn't it? To think that in a short period of time, she went from believing I'm not good enough. That reaction, I can still see it in my mind's eye, the way she opened her eyes and looked at me and went, I'm good enough. And like, she really believed it. And I just think that is just, you know what, I love what I do, and getting and helping people to make those changes is, it's just amazing. So listen, I hope you've enjoyed today's episode about limiting beliefs, a little introduction for you, some little things that you can be doing. And I'd love you to subscribe to the podcast if you haven't already. If you have a friend or a colleague that you know have limiting beliefs, then do them a favour and share this episode with them. Because if they could learn to do that little belief change process that I shared with you, you could be doing them a massive favour in terms of the success that they have in their life. So please share this podcast with them so that we can help as many people as possible. I genuinely hope you've enjoyed today. Leave me a comment and let me know what you think. And I will see you back here for episode 3 really soon. Until then, take care.